Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Now, you guys know me. I kind of keep up to date with the news. I'm going to be honest with you. Dr. Phil helping Tom Homan out with the mass deportation operation was not on my bingo card. I guess they were in Chicago and they were carrying out mass deportations. We're talking illegal criminal aliens right now. So, on top of entering the country illegally, they're going after people who have committed very heinous crimes. We're going to get to a clip a little bit later. There was a guy, he's from Thailand, I guess, and he's here in this country illegally, and he was convicted of abuse, sexual abuse of a child. And he's been just walking around the streets in Illinois and in Chicago and Illinois. And then they stop him and they say, hey, what have you been convicted of? And he didn't want to say on camera. And Dr. Phil's asking him all these questions. I did not see Dr. Phil carrying out mass deportations. A lot of things have happened since 2020, and a lot of things don't shock me anymore. I'm going to say, be honest, my eyes got a little wide and my eyebrows raised a bit when I saw Dr. Phil carrying out these mass deportations with Tom Homan. High of 47 degrees today. That is exciting. Anytime in January where it's 40 degrees, I just feel like I'm one with nature. I'm like, yes, the sun, it's out. So it's going to be sunny today, 47. That's a nice day, especially considering we've had a few negative, like, what was it? I think it was like -9 one day. And, it was cold, very cold. All right, we're going to get to a lot of local news because we provide you ask, we provide. Illinois congressman, he's been criticizing the move to close this office. It's called the federal. It's a federal office, and Donald Trump dissolved this office. It's called Gun Violence Prevention Office. Okay. So he's criticizing the closure of this office. And Illinois congressman, can you guys guess in the text line 309-451-9299 what Illinois congressman is upset about the gun violence prevention office being closed down? If you guys can guess, that's awesome. You can also find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. We are also going to get to Illinois pro-life groups concerned about abortion clinics closing down. So I told you this. I brought you this story a couple of days ago. 4 abortion clinics have closed in Illinois, and everybody was really quick to celebrate. But I kind of mentioned this, but now pro-life groups are really, sounding the alarm here. Hey, you should be concerned about in-person abortion clinics closing down, because really what this means just means that more women are going to be getting the medical abortion, the chemical abortion, the abortion pills, and that is actually far riskier than getting a surgical abortion. In some cases, look at Amber Thurman, who's a case where she, was in Georgia. She tried to travel to North Carolina, I believe it was. She, lives in a state with a 6-week abortion ban. And she was going to travel down to North Carolina and get her in-person surgical abortion. But of course, bad decision number 3, 4, 5, 6. Amber Thurman was late to her appointment. And then she said, okay, yeah, sure, I'll take the chemical abortion pills because that's what the North Carolina abortion clinic recommended. Then she took the abortion pills, drove back to Georgia, and tried to do this quietly and didn't inform emergency rooms, nothing. She hemorrhaged pretty much in the parking lot of the hospital, and she didn't go to the doctor right away when she was experiencing complications after taking that abortion pill. You guys know the story of Amber Thurman. So there's going to be an even larger rise when it comes to chemical abortions in America and in Illinois specifically with the closures of these abortion clinics. We're going to get to also Sheriff Matt Lane clarifying a discrepancy. We talked a lot about this yesterday. Corey Beirne, his post missed obviously a key detail. We, being, not the Chicago Tribune, being forced to have to print a retraction, we of course referred to Corey Beirne's claims of talking with the sheriff about school raids, which we know aren't happening. We referred to those school raids as deportation initiatives. Of course, we were accused of spreading false reports. Actually, we were the only ones who were accurate because now it's kind of embarrassing. Tom Homan has come out and said, no, we're not doing school raids. We've never done school raids. He's already said this, though, folks. He came out and said it like a day after Corey Beirne had said that, there's school raids. And it's just unfortunate because I think it was the Chicago Tribune. There were multiple Chicago outlets where they're like, it's fear mongering. They're trying to get people to believe that there are school raids going on. And what actually happened, they reported 2 ICE agents. I guess they were going into the Chicago public school. And they reported as ICE agents to try to stoke fear. They knew they weren't ICE agents, the corrupt media. And it turns out they were Secret Service agents. And it turns out that a student was making threats about killing President Donald Trump, and it warranted a couple of Secret Service agents to go to the school and question the child about his alleged threats. Okay, so that's the real story, and they had to print a retraction because they called them ICE agents. They weren't ICE agents; they were Secret Service agents, and they were inquiring about a student who had made assassination. Like calls for assassination, threats of assassination, allegedly. Okay, so the Secret Service had to go talk to this kid. So we're not going to print retraction. We did this very, very by the book. And, it's unfortunate that Corey Beirne's post, local NPR's article, they missed a very key detail here to report that school raids at a federal level are not happening. And the guy carrying out the mass deportation operation, Tom Homan, has been caught on tape multiple times saying that, hey, we're not conducting school raids. And unfortunately, despite the sheriff sharing this with Corey Beirne, the county board member, he did not include that in his press release that he issued in his official capacity on his McLean County Board District 10 page. Okay, that's really unfortunate that he didn't include that Sheriff Matt Lane had told Corey Beirne, Mr. Beirne, hey, I have serious doubts that they're going to be conducting these school raids. It was meant to scare you. Okay, Corey Beirne saying that Sheriff Matt Lane was not going to assist federal authorities, ICE agents, with school raids was meant to scare you and make you think that there were school raids happening. And we have an obligation as a news outlet to provide you accurate information and to call things what they actually are. Okay. So I want to start with this Illinois congressman. Can you guys guess what Illinois congressman is expressing dissatisfaction with the closure of the federal gun violence prevention office by President Donald Trump's administration? They closed it all up. If you go to the webpage where the gun violence prevention office.org or whatever .gov, if you go there, you'll get an error message. It doesn't exist anymore, this office. And yes, you guessed it, Eric Sorensen, he retweeted, he supported this Florida congressman. His name is Maxwell Alejandro Frost. He had comments on social media, and this is what he said, Maxwell Frost. This is what he said. He said, "We fought for years to make this office a reality, and lives were saved because of it. President Donald Trump might be okay with dissolving a life-saving office, but the people aren't. So John Bach, now he is a gun rights advocate, Second Amendment advocate. John Bach, he's the executive director of Guns Save Life. Okay, so he said that the office was, a joke. I'm quoting him here, and he says that, hey, it only went after law-abiding citizens. John Bach says this, quote, "There's already tons of laws on the books and about illegally using guns, and in large part, they're not being enforced, especially here in the state of Illinois, thanks to no cash bail. It's gang violence that is actually plaguing our cities. It's not gun violence, it's gang violence. It's the gangs. Okay, we already have laws on the books that we have Chicago definitely has the strictest gun laws, and you see the carnage happening in Cook County. It's the gang violence that's plaguing our nation. It's the gang violence that's plaguing our cities like Chicago." So John Bach said the federal office of gun violence prevention never addressed what he called an unholy alliance between Illinois politicians and gang members. Now, this is really interesting. Bach shared an example with me, and I had no idea really about this story. I don't really pay too much attention to Chicago politics. But Mayor Brandon Johnson, I guess his second biggest contributor here, behind the teachers union, of course, was a gang member who turned into a rapper, and he was just indicted by the feds for conspiracy to commit murder. Now, I guess this was a 2022 murder that he's being accused of, and conspired to, commit this murder. It's very complicated, I guess, this case, but that shows you how deeply entrenched the politicians are with these gang members, and these gangs are entrenched in the politics of Chicago. You've got a top contributor of Brandon Johnson being a gang member, okay, who is currently being indicted by the feds for conspiracy to commit murder. Okay, so Bach says, quote, they prefer to go after gun owners instead of going after gang members who actually are killing people. Yeah, the gang members, they don't want to go after the gang members because they're contributing to their campaigns. Okay, quite literally. They're making, gang members, they're making bank, okay, because they're selling the drugs, they're doing all of this, they're making bank. So of course they're going to prop up these politicians. I mean, this is just a tale as old as time. So let me get to the charges here that were filed against Grammy Award-winning Chicago rapper. His name's Lil Durk. His real name is Dirk Banks, and I think he's around 30 years old, 32, I think. And he has been charged in connection with an alleged 2020 murder for hire plot targeting a rival rapper of his. He could be facing life in federal prison. This is insane. Okay, these are really, really serious crimes that he's being accused of, and I get it, innocent until proven guilty. But you've got this kind of guy propping up Brandon Johnson's campaign along with the teachers union. Yeah, this is a joke. So the Federal Gun Violence Prevention Office didn't address things like that. Like, hey, maybe we shouldn't have Chicago gang members propping up Illinois politicians, and perhaps, that's causing a bit of a conflict of interest for our politicians to craft laws that go after gang members and prosecute gang members to the fullest extent of the law. Of course, we don't want to go after gang members who prop up our campaigns, right? So the recently shut down Gun Violence Prevention Office is a joke, he says. John Bach explained that the creation of the office was nothing but a press release to make the Biden administration seem valuable. I love this. John Bach says, people are trying to milk it. They're trying to say, oh my gosh, it was saving lives. How could they dissolve this? How could they shut this down? You know what? Show me the lives that were saved because of the office. Prove to me, because crime is up, gang violence is up. The office did nothing except infringe upon law-abiding Americans' right to self-defense and own guns. Now, Bach, what he did say, and this is going to be interesting, and I haven't seen any executive order regarding this yet. He could do this via executive order. He could do this via, legislation. But the Second Amendment advocates, what they want and what they're optimistic about is a possible concealed carry reciprocity legislation being signed by the president. Now, what does that mean? Bach says, quote, I think if we pass national reciprocity in one form or another here soon, that'll benefit Illinoisans and people who visit our state, to allow them to carry firearms in our state to protect themselves against criminals and lunatics just running amok in our society, especially thanks to no cash bail and the SAFE-T Act, where we don't hold people accountable. We don't hold people in jail after they've been arrested, after they've committed horrendous crimes or are accused thereof of horrendous crimes. Okay, so national reciprocity is a proposal where states must recognize the concealed carry licenses of other states, as they do with, like, say, marriage licenses, driver's licenses, right? So if somebody in Florida has a concealed carry license with national reciprocity, they'd be able to carry here in Illinois and be safe. So their license would transfer over, and they wouldn't, be charged with anything, because in order to carry here in the state of Illinois right now, you have to have an Illinois concealed carry class. With national reciprocity, that would, not be a thing. Anybody could carry, no matter what state you're from, and they'd be able to protect themselves here in Illinois. That's a big deal. So critics argue that, of course, national reciprocity infringes on states' rights to regulate firearms as they see fit. Here's the thing: shall not be infringed. States shouldn't even be regulating the use of firearms at all. shall not be infringed, Second Amendment, right? So, but I want to shift gears here. We are going to get to the Illinois pro-life groups. They're concerned about these Illinois Planned Parenthoods being closed down. They're closed down, and I think it was largely due to the anticipation. We now know that Donald Trump, now this came after the Illinois Planned Parenthoods, one in Bloomington actually is closing down the clinic, the in-person clinic. We now know that President Donald Trump signed an executive order prohibiting federal dollars being allocated to Planned Parenthood. And, it's just so sad how much money we've given to Planned Parenthood. They would not exist without federal funding. And I think that's why they're closing up a lot of these in-person clinics, because they know that they're not going to be able to exist without the federal funding. So they've got to kind of, streamline their operation there and kind of like go all online because they just can't do it without the federal dollars. Okay, so we're going to talk about it here coming up in just a little bit. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. The left is always about deception. Yes, exactly. Turbin Durbin. Close. It was Eric Swanson. Turbin Durbin. I love it. Yeah, Durbin, the senator. No. Very close. Very close. Eric Swanson. But yeah, he's a hack too. Probably not. I talk about Dick Durbin all of the time, so I could see where you were going to guess Dick Durbin. It's only been 8 days and our country gets better and better every day. God, I love having a president that is working for people and not the globalists. Yes. So I've talked about this a lot before, actually. And, they have no game plan, the Democrats at this point. They've got no bench. They've got nobody, no clear candidate for 2028 for the presidency. Okay, so there is no clear direction of where this party goes. And I've said it multiple times that I think that this good old boys, Chicago politics, Michael Madigan era is kind of over. We have to remember Barack Obama is from Illinois. Okay, and his type of politics, here it is. His types of politics is the Michael Madigan way. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. Okay. Barack Obama just did the same thing that Michael Madigan did, but at a federal level with our foreign adversaries. Okay. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. And with those who are enemies of the United States, that's what they did at a national level, Barack Obama. And I call them the good old boys, your Nancy Pelosi's, your Dick Durbins, your Chuck Schumer's, your, this establishment Democrat Party. Now, I think that we are shifting here, and there has been some infighting, and perhaps this is why there is such a, just like the Democrat Party is so lost. I think that there's two different philosophies here. You've got that establishment, but they're dying off at this point, right? Barack Obama, I think he is rumored to be having an affair with Jennifer Aniston. He's totally given up, I think, on life. And they're done. Like, the establishment is done. I think it was a clear indication that they're done because Hillary Clinton got a Medal of Freedom, or it was one of these high honors that she had gotten. And I know George Soros' son got one too. And I think that was very deliberate. Hey, we're bringing in this new party. We're bringing in the young Democrats. And what the young Democrats want is this globalist. So think of your Gavin Newsom, your Governor J.B. Pritzkers, your AOCs. What they really want is a socialist society, communism. Okay, Nancy Pelosi, she was all about, lining her pockets with her stock, crafting legislation that would, for example, the semiconductors, they would create legislation that was favorable to semiconductor industries, and then she would invest in semiconductor stock. Okay, so that was, I'm going to scratch your back, you scratch my back kind of mentality. I think we're stepping away from that, and now we're approaching how can we destroy America and create something that's totally unrecognizable? That's why you've seen this rise in gender identity, trying to confuse people about their identity. They're attacking the culture. of America, this multiculturalism that's talked about in schools. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many classes, how many professors shoved culturalism down my throat. And in fact, at ISU, and I don't know if it still exists, but there is an entire building, folks, dedicated to multiculturalism. And I've talked about this before, where it's the idea that all cultures are equal. No. Not all cultures are equal. In some cultures, it's okay to marry children, child brides. It's okay to chop gay people's hands off or throw them off of rooftops. In China, it's okay to work people to the bone to where they want to jump out of these skyscrapers, and they've got to put suicide nets around the skyscrapers. This is what happens in other countries. So yes, the American culture is superior. You can't tell me otherwise. Look at everybody who wants to come here. Okay. Now, this importing of the illegals is all about globalism. They want to distort and destroy America's culture. And how best to do that? Well, let's just import everybody else's culture into America, and then there will be no American culture. There will be no. And what do I mean by the American culture? I mean, think of J.D. Vance, right? You work hard, you might come from a rough childhood, might have an alcohol drug problem in your home, but you defeat that and you can become a senator, the Ohio senator, and you can become the vice president of the United States. You can be anything you want. You can have the dog, the German Shepherd dog. You can have the white picket fence and the kids and the two kids. And you can have, in J.D. Vance's case, an interracial marriage. Your family doesn't have to be white. That's not what it means. American culture doesn't mean whiteness. It just means, hey, success, excellence, that's what we prioritize. And we're all in it together. We respect women. We respect people of color. That's what the American culture is. And we respect people's, gender, different gender, women. We respect women. And that's the American culture. We protect our women and children. And in other countries, that's not the case. As evident by some countries, I forget what country is pro-child marriage, a ton of Islamic ones, I'm just going to be frank with you. Or Iran, right? I mean, this is just prominent stuff that happens in those countries, and it's an attack. So I think that we're going to have this new group come in, and they're going to attack the American culture. That's why JB is so hell-bent on illegal immigration and keeping the illegals here, because they want to destroy the American culture, and they want to keep the illegals here to destroy it from within, because they're pro-globalism. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in. Now, before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Illinois pro-life groups and how they're concerned about the Illinois Planned Parenthoods. There's 4 of them. These abortion clinics, in-person abortion clinics, are closing down because medical abortion, and the pro-life groups are concerned about these closures because they believe that there are going to be way more chemical abortions being done. I don't like to call them medical abortions. They're chemical abortions. So these are pills that you take, and there's a chemical. There's actually 2 pills. I think it's mifepristone, misoprostol. One of them stops any kind of hormone production. The other one forces you to have essentially a miscarriage or empty the uterus. And they're very risky. Okay. I don't think anybody, even like if you are a pro-abortionist, I don't think that you'd argue with me that chemical abortions and abortions like via the pill are more of a risk than it is in-person abortion clinics. Okay. Or like a surgical abortion. So the closures came before President Donald Trump signed an executive order prohibiting federal dollars from going to these Planned Parenthoods. David Smith, executive director of the Illinois Family Institute, said he suspects the closures of the 4 clinics, yes, was out of anticipation that the federal government would cut their funding. So like literally days before Donald Trump cut their funding, they kind of shut down, and they were kind of preparing for this cut to their funding. Now, how big of a cut are we looking at here? Well, the federal government, according to David Smith, gives about $500 million a year to reproductive health clinics. Okay. Now, the state of Illinois funds abortion through Medicaid. Okay, so Medicaid will pay for your abortion if you go get an abortion, and that's our tax dollars going to Medicaid, and then Medicaid is paying for. So you're paying for somebody else's abortion through Medicaid, state funding. There's also state funding that goes to it. Taxpayer funding abortion was made possible with the passage of Senate Bill 25. Okay, now this was, I think it's referred to as let me look this up here, the Illinois Reproductive Health Act. Okay, now this was a few years ago. It was enacted in 2019, okay, under Governor J.B. Pritzker. This was enacted, and what that does, it establishes a fundamental right to reproductive health in Illinois. Now, here's a very quick way to decide if it's a human right or not, okay? A lot of times leftists will say education is a human right, healthcare is a human right, abortions are human rights. No. If it takes somebody else's labor in order for you to get that thing, like housing, healthcare, obviously somebody has to build the house, obviously somebody has to provide the healthcare, obviously somebody has to provide the abortion, okay? Somebody has to provide the education. These things are not a human right, okay? Your endowed Declaration of Independence lays this out, endowed by a creator, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, okay? So those are, endowed by a creator. I don't even really like the term human rights. They're rights endowed by a creator, endowed by God. God gives you these rights as a human. So nobody can enslave you, imprison you, if you haven't done anything wrong, right? Obviously, and broken the laws. But if you, right to life, nobody has the right to murder you. Okay, so right to life first. And then pursuit of happiness, COVID-19, locking people down for no reason, healthy people. That was just infringing on human rights. Okay, so I just want to be clear about that. Okay, so this bill, Senate Bill 25, made it possible for taxpayer funding, like just straight up dollars going to Planned Parenthood, because it's deemed now a human right in the state. So it's heavily funded by taxpayer dollars, the Planned Parenthood industry. And in 2023, I'm just going to read just 2023 numbers. Now, just this isn't Medicaid. This isn't the Medicaid paying for abortions. This is just straight up federal funding that went from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to Planned Parenthood. Okay, now there's other abortion clinics besides Planned Parenthood, but this is just Planned Parenthood. $670 million. Okay, now in 2023 in Illinois, you want to know how much we gave? $50 million in funding, the state of Illinois, of taxpayer dollars. Okay, $50 million. This is an insane amount of money. They are getting money hand over fist from you, the taxpayer. Okay, so they say, and they'll claim all the time until their face is blue, okay, that, oh, no, women pay for the abortive services. Women pay these fees, and they pay for their, birth control, and they do. They do, but they're also getting propped up by the government here. So they are not a non-for-profit. They are stealing from women, because abortions, I don't know what it's at now, but they're, I'd say, approximately $1,000 to go get a surgical abortion. So on top of collecting thousands and thousands of dollars from women, they're collecting millions and millions and millions of dollars from the federal government and from the state government, much like the U.S. Postal Service. Okay, they do the same thing. The same exact thing. So David Smith said Planned Parenthood could just be streamlining. So yes, they were anticipating cuts to their funding because President Donald Trump did sign that executive order. But they could also just be streamlining because it's, Nobody's getting surgical abortions anymore. Okay, chemical abortion is growing in America. Planned Parenthood, their own reporting agency, has that at 63% of all abortions, so a majority of abortions are done through chemical abortions, so the pill. Now, chemical abortions can be easily mailed. People will request the chemical abortion in the mail. You can get it via the mail. They can easily be gotten through the mail, and you can do it all at your house. Okay, self-service. You take the pills. It's all on you. There's no medical supervision at all. David Smith, he actually thinks that that 63% number is actually way higher. He thinks it's like 80 to 90% of all abortions. So there's really no need for in-person abortion clinics if everybody's getting them chemically now. Okay, so they're like streamlining. They're just making it more efficient because nobody's coming in for in-person abortions anymore. So maybe they don't need an actual clinic for late-term or mid-term or mid to late-term abortions anymore because those are that are more surgical. Okay, they don't need the surgical procedure. They've got the chemical abortion, and you can take those late term, midterm, whatever. It's obviously more dangerous, but they're just handing them out like candy, like quite literally, like these pills are being handed out by Planned Parenthood like candy. And it's dangerous because guess what, folks? You're going to have women who take this and don't have medical supervision over it, and these have wacky side effects like you're just going to hemorrhage out and die. Okay, so Planned Parenthood announced Bloomington, Ottawa, Decatur, Englewood, and Chicago South Side. They're all going to be closing those abortion clinics. In a statement, the organization said it'll expand telehealth appointments as costs for in-person healthcare, the in-person healthcare are rising. Okay, that's what the woman here, Virgil Reed, Dr. Virgil Reed. I don't even really want to call her a doctor. Anybody who advocates for people to take dangerous pills in the privacy of their own home without medical supervision is just not a doctor in my book. She's quack. Offering medication through our PPD Direct app allows patients to connect with us through their phone. Oh boy. She's the chief medical officer. She says this expands access because patients can receive the same great care they associate with Planned Parenthood from the comfort of wherever they are in the state. Yeah, they can get it mailed to their house. And yeah, this is not the same great care. Okay, it's just not. Smith said that it's always riskier to have an abortion, procedure like abortion done without medical supervision. And that's the big thing here is that nobody knows that you're taking these pills. And how many of these women are just going to quietly do this? They're in some sort of crisis pregnancy mode. They're just going to take this abortion pill without anybody knowing. And then afterwards, they find out, oh man, I'm hemorrhaging. I should probably go to the emergency room. They get to the emergency room. Do you really think a lot of them are going to say, oh yes, I took the abortion pill? Probably not. Some of them might, but a lot of women probably will keep quiet about that stuff because there is a lot of guilt associated with getting an abortion, right? So, Smith explained a scene, actually. I don't know if you've seen it. It's Unplanned by Abby Johnson. I haven't seen it. I have seen this scene from the film. It's a great film from what I hear. She became a pro-life activist. She was actually the Planned Parenthood director at a time, and then she became a pro-life activist. One of her abortions was a chemical abortion, and it's very graphic. There's a scene of her in the shower hemorrhaging. And Smith, he's anticipating that more and more women are going to be getting this chemical abortion that ultimately winds up where women are hemorrhaging. Look, this is my chance to tell you, this interim president of Planned Parenthood, and she's the CEO of Planned Parenthood Illinois. Her name is Tanya Tucker. She says patient care is always and will be our number one priority. I can tell you right now, it's not. They're streamlining, they're cutting back their in-person abortion clinics because it's about the money. It's always been about the money. That's why they charge you thousands upon thousands of dollars to perform these surgical abortions on top of getting millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars from the federal and state governments. Okay, so bottom line, this is a great plug, the Pregnancy Resource Center. Okay, I love the Pregnancy Resource Center. They actually offer free pregnancy services to women. So if you're listening to me right now, Pregnancy Resource Center in Bloomington, they also have a Lincoln location. living alternatives. There's ultrasounds that you can get. They'll help you with parenting classes. This is actually Planned Parenthood. Okay, they're planning your next steps for entering into parenthood, and they do incredible work. And they actually care about their patients. Okay, and they're not going to just say, find us on an app, find your service, find your healthcare on an app, and we're going to call you and conduct an entire appointment over the phone. No, go to Pregnancy Resource Center. Okay, I want to shift gears. We're going to be back. Left-leaning public radio station accused Cities 92.9 of reporting false information regarding a conversation between McLean County Board member Corey Beirne, District 10, and then McLean County Sheriff Matt Lane. After speaking with the sheriff yesterday and obtaining comments from a federal border czar, the guy in charge of the mass deportations, key details appear to be missing from the local NPR station's accusations in their article, and they also appear to be missing from the Post and from the press release, this news release that Corey had released, and he left out some key details that Sheriff Matt Lane actually told him, hey, I seriously doubt school raids are going to be happening. And it is a total injustice to you as somebody, as a constituent, to have your county officials, your elected officials going out there and fear mongering and trying to get you to think that school raids are happening on school properties. I mean, that's really dangerous to be. You're scaring the kids and you're scaring parents that, they're going to be flying in from the ceiling and dropping in like ninjas and nabbing children, ICE agents. Like, give me a break, So we were the first to report the claims made by Corey Beirne on social media. We are going to be right back with that story next on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Yes, Trump turned on the water in California. Yes. I have that clip. I want to play it here for you right now. Trump turned on the water, and there's so much that he's done within just 8 days, folks. 8 days. We're talking about freeing the hostages from Israel. Joe Biden had 15 months to do this, freeing the hostages, bringing the hostages home. And he didn't do it. He did not do it. Now, this is what Donald Trump says on social media, on Truth Social. He says, the United States military just entered the great state of California and under my emergency powers turned on the water flowing abundantly from the Pacific Northwest and beyond. The days of putting fake environmental arguments over people are over. Okay, the days of this fake environmental argument that the delta smelt, it's this tiny little fish, needs all of this water, and without the delta smelt, we're going to die. Okay, not true. And it's totally fake environmental argument. And they put a little tiny fish over the people. Okay, and those days are over. That's what Donald Trump says. And he says, enjoy the water, California. Now, this is one thing that I wanted to talk about. Trump talks about exile. Now, this might actually sound familiar to you. There was a local candidate who talked about Project Exile here in Cook County and implementing Cook County Project Exile. I'm going to get to that, but here, take a listen to President Donald Trump here.
They're very dangerous people. They're violent people. I used to say these are more violent than our criminals. In fact, the best part about them is they make our criminals look quite nice, actually, by comparison. They are very violent people. We also have many violent criminals in our country, however, that did not necessarily come here illegally, but have been arrested 30 times, 35 times, 41, 42 times in a couple of cases, 25 times, 18 times. Many for murder and other heinous charges, such as pushing people into subways. As the train's coming along at 45 miles an hour, boom, you get pushed into the subway. They had it last week. Hitting them in the head with baseball bats while they're not looking, punching old ladies in the face, knocking them unconscious and stealing their purse. They even break into apartments and rape elderly women and beat up elderly men, beat them to hell. And I don't want these violent repeat offenders in our country any more than I want illegal aliens from other countries who misbehave. And I say, and this is subject to getting it approved, but if they've been arrested many, many times, they're repeat offenders by many numbers, I want them out of our country. I also will be seeking permission to do so. We're going to get approval, hopefully, to get them the hell out of our country along with others. Let them be brought to a foreign land and maintained by others for a very small fee, as opposed to be maintained in our jails for massive amounts of money, including the private prison companies that charge us a fortune. Now, let them be brought out of our country and let them live there for a while. Let's see how they like it. You'll see crime all over the country dry up. Essentially, that's what Venezuela and other countries are doing. They're getting rid of their criminals and putting them into the United States of America. And their crime is down by almost 80%. We're going to restore law and order in America, and we want to bring back the death penalty for these horrible people that kill people. They kill people. It's always a tough thing to say because I don't like it. Nobody likes it. But if you don't do it, we're just looking for trouble.
Okay. So I wanted to share that with you. That's explosive news. Now, there was somebody else talking about this. You might remember Project Exile. It was Mr. Fioretti. Okay, so he was running, Bob Fioretti. Now he lost the office for Cook County State's Attorney, which was held by Kim Foxx. Kim Foxx had announced that she wasn't seeking re-election, so there were multiple candidates. Bob Fioretti lost to Eileen O'Neill Burke. Okay, so he was running against her in the general election. He lost against her in 2024 November. Okay, now Bob Fioretti, he recommended we implement a federal program called Project Exile, and he said it could help with criminals that continue to commit crimes in our state prisons. Okay, so sending criminals who operate gangs to federal prison instead of state prisons can stop the Chicago carnage, is how he put it. Okay, so that's a big deal because you've got people operating these gangs from within inside the state prison, so nothing ever gets done about the gang violence in Chicago because they're just operating the gang from within inside the prison. Okay, so this Project Exile was very big in Virginia, and it dropped the flow of illegal guns from coming in. And we in Cook County, this is what Bob Fioretti says, will prosecute to the fullest those who have illegal guns in their possession, and we're not going to coddle violent criminals. We're going to work with the federal government, and in big gun cases, we will defer to them to make sure they get the maximum penalties on people that have guns and are coming in and committing crimes in this county. So if they're coming in with illegal guns, the illegal gun thing, it's Project Exile. You will be shipped to a federal prison instead of residing in a state prison. I'm back. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. On the stream, we were just chatting about it. We're going to talk about it maybe a little bit later in the show because President Donald Trump actually came out and started talking about Project Exile. This is bringing back exile for America's criminal or career criminals. Okay, so if you're convicted 24 times, if you're arrested 24 times and you're convicted 24 times or 18 times or 17 times, something like that, we don't want those repeat offenders in our country anymore. And for a small fee, America will pay to house them. They'll pay these countries for a small fee to house these repeat offenders in other countries. Venezuela, their crime dropped by 80% because guess what they did? They just shipped and took advantage of our open border policies. They shipped the criminals over here via the open border, and their crime went down 80%. Okay, now these criminals who are repeat offenders in our country, how would they like it if they go and they serve their sentence in a prison, a Panamanian prison, or some sort of crazy prison where you're not going to get 3-course meals and 3 meals a day and a nice bed to lay in, right? And U.S. taxpayers taking care of you. No, no, no. You go to a different prison. That's going to dry up crime real quick, real quick. So this Project Exile was also talked about. You guys might remember Bob Fioretti. He ran on this. He was running for Cook County State's Attorney. We know Kim Foxx. She said that she wasn't seeking re-election. Bob Fioretti lost to Eileen O'Neill Burke. But this was a big thing in Virginia, and it dropped the flow of illegal guns coming in. And we in Cook County should prosecute those who have illegal guns in their possession to the fullest extent of the law. That was according to Bob Fioretti, and at the time when he was running on the campaign. And he said, hey, people caught with illegal guns, what they need to be doing is they need to be sent to federal prison. So rather than serving their time in Illinois, we need to send them to a federal prison, and they can serve their sentence there. Because another thing here, the gang violence is the big thing. We talked about that earlier this morning in Chicago. That's what's causing the Chicago carnage. It's not gun violence, it's gang violence, okay? And guns don't kill people. People kill people with guns. And he said, hey, you know, instead of serving these these career criminals commit crimes within the state prisons, they operate the gangs from within inside the state prisons. And so if you're caught with an illegal weapon, illegal guns, if you're caught with that and you don't have a FOID code, you don't have a concealed carry, and you're caught with this illegal gun and you're a career criminal, what we're going to do, we're going to make sure that you don't serve in state prison so you can operate your gang from within inside the state prison. No, 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 no. We're going to send you to federal prison, and we're going to remove you from, you know, your gang buddies and all your friends and family and whatever. We're going to remove you and send you to a federal prison somewhere else other than the state of Illinois, and in the state prison. So that was what he ran on, Bob Fioretti. And I think it's genius because you are going to dry up crime so fast if you start sending criminals away from their homeland, and if you send them away from their friends and family. That is so much of a deterrent. Nobody's going to be committing crimes anymore. And Venezuela did it, and their crime dried up 80%. So we're going to be back with more on that. I'm going to play a clip from Donald Trump. I did promise you I am going to get to the Sheriff Matt Lane speaking with us. He revealed to us that Corey Beirne did not include in his news release that the sheriff, according to Lane, had also told him that the federal government likely was not going to conduct raids or school raids. And then Sheriff Lane clarified this, and he said, I'm not on the same page with everything in Beirne's original post here. He had said, yes, I did say we weren't going to be conducting school raids, and I wouldn't be doing that we wouldn't be doing that as the sheriff's office. However, nothing else in the post is something that I can verify. I can't verify everything else in the post. Something that's very contradictory to Lane's position on immigration here. We've got Corey Beirne saying that federal authorities are not knowledgeable when it comes to conducting raids. And Lane says, look, no. The federal government and law enforcement, especially in the federal realm, they're very good at assessing risk to everyone around when they're conducting or when they're doing something like this, school raids. So I don't see them doing school raids. It might be the only option in some cases, but I seriously doubt it's going to happen. Beirne stated, federal agencies generally lack the manpower and local knowledge to conduct raids on their own. Matt Lane says, do it on your own. I'm not going to assist in that. You can do it on your own. I'm not going to assist in it. So, yeah, that's what Lane says. He says, I think what the federal government is looking for here, though, and what I hope they're looking for is the criminal element of people who are here that shouldn't be. One thing I think it should be left up to the immigration officials to do is to go. If they want to go into schools, they can. Okay, if they want to go into schools, I don't believe that's my place. Okay, so that's a much different picture painted by Matt Lane than what was originally laid out in that statement. That included things like, federal agencies generally lack manpower and local knowledge to conduct raids on their own. That's a much different picture than what Matt Lane is saying about ICE agents entering in schools. He says, okay, go ahead. I don't think that they will, okay, because they are knowledgeable and they're good at assessing risks. And I don't foresee them putting people in harm's way in conducting school raids and arresting children. Nobody has ever said that, and it was totally misleading to say that. I'm going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Woo! Yes, good morning. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. We are going to be coming back talking about Matt Lane clarifying that he's not on the same page with everything in Corey Beirne's original post. He says, quote, I think the federal government and law enforcement, specifically in the federal realm, very good at assessing risk to everyone around when they're doing something like this. So I don't see when they're doing something like a mass deportation operation, I don't see them doing school raids, conducting school raids. It may be the only option in some cases, but I seriously doubt that this is going to be happening. And unfortunately, Corey Beirne didn't include in his statement, in his press release, that school raids aren't happening, haven't happened, and that the borders are actually in charge of the mass deportation effort. Was asked about this, and he said, no, we're not doing that. So we're going to be back here at the top of the hour, covering so much. I want to get to Selena Gomez crying because it's absolutely hilarious. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. All right, folks. Well, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Fox News. Oh, I didn't know if Fox News did that. That's absolutely absurd. It's not global warming. It's not an act of God, right? Where these wildfires. Actually, Donald Trump at one point, I'd have to look this up. His exact comments on it. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing, but he suggested that these were definitely that these fires were caused. So I can look that up for you. Heaven has walls. Only certain people are allowed in. Don't tell me closing the U.S. border and vetting people is anti-Christian. No, and I've talked about this before. And that's one thing, the devil will do. Devil knows scripture. Devil believes in Jesus. devil believes in God, right? He knows that all of that's real, and he knows scripture probably better than anybody. He weaponizes it, and that's what the left has done. They'll weaponize certain scriptures, and they'll try to say, see, this is an argument against borders, and you're supposed to be really, really kind to illegal immigrants, which is true. You're supposed to be kind, but they also have to afford you the same respect. I talked about it. It's in Genesis where Abraham, he's in this foreign land, I think it's Canaan, and he's talking to this king, and he's talking to this king about burying his wife Sarah, and he wants to pay for the burial grounds, okay, pay for the land. And the king insists, no, 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 no. I'm not going to ask you to pay. You know, can bury your wife here. And then Abraham insists, and he ultimately winds up paying the king. Okay. So there's this theme of if you're in a foreign land, you have to give those authorities who own the land the respect that they deserve, okay, and vice versa. The king was very nice to Abraham while he was there, and we are very nice, and nobody understands that this doesn't happen in any other country except the United States. H-1Bs, work visas, student visas, green cards, asylum, naturalization. There are, I mean, that's just 6, but there's so many, like there's probably like 7 different work visas that you can get, H-1B being one of them. And I don't agree with all of them. I think that we should tighten it up a little bit, right? Because I think we're a little too nice. And H-1Bs, and I've talked about this before, what we're doing is robbing those countries of their best and the brightest. And how are we to expect the rest of the world to thrive if we take away everybody who's, the best and the brightest from those countries and take them for our countries? Now, that was the H-1B design, actually, and that's what it's supposed to be, where, we're looking for a doctor who can perform this operation and nobody in the United States can do it. Let's pull, say somebody from India to perform the operation or to fill this position that nobody else knows how to do. Okay. That's an H-1B, or what it's designed to be. Now people are here and they're Uber drivers. Okay. And they're on an H-1B visa, which is absolutely ridiculous. Or they're fielding calls, they're a call center. Okay. And they are here on an H-1B, or a software engineer. Like, you mean to tell me that Americans can't be software engineers? Give me a break. Okay. And what we've done is we've actually abused our immigrants through these processes and through the H-1B system, because we'll take somebody with an H-1B and not pay them as much as, say, an American engineer. Okay. So you hire someone with an H-1B, you can pay them way below what you would pay an American engineer, and you're pretty much slave labor. I mean, that's like not slave labor because you're paying them, but like you're treating them badly. Okay. And we need to clean up a lot of our work visas and the way we allow immigrants into our country. We need to properly vet, as you had said, properly vetting people and closing our border is not anti-Christian. In fact, it's the most Christian thing you could possibly do. You don't want somebody coming in and killing people. The guy, Laken Riley, right? The guy here in Illinois, Gabriel Calixto, killing allegedly Emma Schaefer, kidnapping a different woman. You don't want those types of people here. So we're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about Sheriff Matt Lane clearing up this discrepancy, about the Corey Beirne press release that didn't include all of the information and that missed key details like school raids aren't happening in his press release, and the accusations made by the local public radio station about our radio station, which is just retaliatory, right? And it's definitely retaliation. Used to work for the local I myself used to work for them, and it's definitely retaliatory in nature because I refused a full-time position with them because I woke up and wasn't corrupted by the college indoctrination schemes and plots against me. Okay. And they're upset that they didn't get to me. Okay. So that's really what this is all about. But we were by the book, did everything right, and we didn't mislead the public into believing that school raids were happening in our community, because that's just straight up fear mongering, and we don't do that. The left will do that. we won't do that. Okay. We're going to be honest with you. Now, there are things that you should fear. Gabriel Calixto, Dick Durbin working with criminals to get them out. Victims of crime have now accused Dick Durbin of working with their abusers, working with their kidnappers, and getting them out of prison. Okay, so that is a big deal. You need to be concerned about those who are in this country illegally and want to hurt you. Okay, and don't mind hurting you because they don't see it as hurting you because it's all acceptable in their country. Okay, child brides, acceptable in certain parts of the world. Hurting women, acceptable in certain parts of the world. And we don't allow that here in the United States, or at least we shouldn't allow that here in the United States because our culture is superior and we don't want those cultures. We don't want the culture where somebody thinks it's okay to publicly defecate, okay, in the sand and cover it up or eat dogs and cats. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Man, we've got so much to get to this morning. There's a few stories I want to get to. Number one, there is a singer who made a shocking claim about Ozempic. One thing that you need to know, your taxpayer dollars are going to government employees' healthcare plans for them to be on Ozempic. So that's something that recently happened in the state of Illinois. The government employees, they wanted Ozempic to be included in their healthcare plan. These are very, very expensive drugs, by the way, and you're paying for them as a taxpayer, so that way your government employees, after sitting on their butts all day and getting fat, can take Ozempic. Okay, so you're paying for all of that. Now, the singer has come out and made a shocking claim about Ozempic and how it left her with a life-threatening bone disease, osteoporosis. So we're going to be talking about that. Selena Gomez also crying about the deportation operation, about illegal aliens being deported, about criminal illegal aliens at this point are being deported. And she's crying. And it just bothers me so much. Like, she is everything she is because of America. Okay. She started out in a very, very small home in Texas. And she winds up, I think she has like multiple mansions at this point. And I find it hilarious. She's like bawling and sobbing uncontrollably in this video. She later deleted, by the way. But she's sobbing uncontrollably. And she talks about, I don't know what to do for my people. Okay, first of all, America made you what you are. You're an American, okay, and you should be grateful that you're an American because you went from nothing and you have $1 million mansions. I find it hilarious that she didn't open up her mansions to the illegal immigrants to stay there. Aren't you going to harbor them? Are you going to, aid them with your $1 million mansions? Create a migrant shelter. Okay, do that. But she won't, right? And she just wanted to get on social media and try to get eyeballs on her for the attention. Okay, that's what anybody does. Anybody who films themselves crying and then puts it up on social media, it's called seeking attention. That's it. That's what she wanted. So we're going to get to that. Let's get to this first. I do want to clarify a few things. First, I want to talk about Sheriff Matt Lane clearing up some of these discrepancies. The left-leaning public radio station, as I talked about earlier, reported false information about how we reported false information. There was a conversation, obviously, between McLean County Board member Curry Beirne, a Democrat, District 10, McLean County Sheriff Matt Lane. After speaking to the sheriff, obtaining comments made by the federal border czar, key details appear to be missing not only from the local public radio stations, NPR station that is publicly funded, by the way, and they're probably biting their nails right now because there's going to be an executive order likely that cuts a lot of their funding, much like Planned Parenthood. But there's probably going to be an executive order saying, hey, we don't, we're not going to pay for government propaganda anymore via NPR stations. Okay. So there was key details missing from not only those accusations, but also Mr. Beirne's news release that he had released on his official social media page as a county board district member, District 10 member. So Cities 92.9, we were the first to report on these claims. And Beirne said on social media in his official capacity, quote, "I've spoken with Matt Lane, McLean County Sheriff, and he assured me that the Sheriff's Department will not assist ICE in conducting raids on local schools. I appreciate the conversation and the assurance and look forward to continuing to work with Sheriff Lane and his team of professionals and navigate this new challenge." Okay, this obviously gives the indication that there are school raids happening and that Sheriff Matt Lane, in this official statement, it appears that he had a talk with Corey Beirne about school raids that are going on and that would be possibly planned for the area. In our original post, all we did, folks, was we shared the news release that Corey Beirne in his official capacity shared out onto his social media. And we said, quote, "McLean County Board member Corey Beirne claims McLean County Sheriff Matt Lane will not be assisting federal authorities in deportation initiatives." Okay, that's what we said. ICE, obviously a federal authority. Cities 92.9, we referred to Corey Beirne's comment as regarding school raids as deportation initiatives. The word choice here was very, very careful because we didn't want to mislead the public into believing that school raids were going on, because they have not and will not be a part of the Trump administration's deportation operation. How do I know this? Tom Homan, the guy in charge of the whole operation effort, the mass deportation operation effort. He's in charge of it all. He actually came out and he talks about this. I mean, he has repeatedly said this, folks, which is why we refer to the school raids as deportation initiatives, because we did not want to, it was unclear what they talked about, because we know that school raids aren't happening and are not part of the deportation initiative. So we vaguely said, hey, deportation initiatives, careful not to mislead you, the public, into believing that those were going on. Because if you're a parent and you're sending your kid to school every day, I'd be pretty freaked out if ICE agents were dropping from the ceiling and, arresting children. And that's scary as a parent. That's scary as a student if that was actually happening, but it's not. Okay. And Sheriff Matt Lane shared with Corey Beirne here, folks, that so Beirne did not include in his post that Sheriff Matt Lane shared with him that the school raids, seriously doubt that those are going to happen. Okay. He clarified, Matt Lane, he says, "I'm not on the same page with everything in Beirne's post here, because I seriously doubt school raids are going on." And that's what I told him, that I seriously doubt that that's what's going on. Now, let's take a listen to this. This is a really important clip. Here's Dr. Phil. Like I said, I didn't have this on my bingo card. Dr. Phil working with Tom Homan on conducting these deportations in Chicago, but they're at this ICE command center in Chicago. And Dr. Phil starts asking questions of Tom Homan. Here we go.
Sweeping neighborhoods looking for people different color than us. Forget that hogwash and look at what we actually did. We're proving it to them. How can you argue with the system we've set up?
Well, straight up, are you going into schools and arresting children at schools?
No.
Is anything like that happening?
No, sir.
Are you going into businesses and sweeping through there and taking anybody with a tan and seeing where they're from?
We go into businesses for a criminal enforcement operation, but again, sweeps don't occur anywhere.
The sweeps are not occurring. You're just not going in like seining for fish in a pond and just picking up. You're going targeted. If a criminal is working in a business and you have to pick them up there, you're going in for that target.
Absolutely.
And what's happening to me, it seems that these politicians are creating what they fear the most, and that is forcing ICE agents into the community where they pick up the target and wind up picking up collaterals that may be around them, as opposed to going to the jail where they just get the target and leave.
That's the game they want to play, and so, game on. We're going to do it. I mean, it's all about public safety. We're going to take that public safety threat off the street by any means necessary. If we can't get in the jail, then we'll go in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and Chris, look, we've got two very high-risk apprehensions that are going down within minutes. I can tell you that these are bad actors that are doing things that are immediate, instant danger to anyone around them. I'm not going to say what they are right now, because even describing it could be tipping off who we're talking about. And if they happen to be watching this, or somebody they know is watching this, could pick up the phone and call them and put agents' lives in more danger than they already are.
That's right.
That's why we're being very careful. That's why we're asking all of you in the control room to process these videos and blur the faces of the brave men and women that are doing what they're doing, because we don't want them harassed and targeted after the fact. And that has and does happen. So we're being very careful to protect everybody out there. But just know, listen, whether you're seeing this on Merit TV or Merit.
Okay, so that was Dr. Phil. And like I said, not on my bingo card here that Dr. Phil was going to be assisting in mass deportation efforts. That's insane. But Beirne did not include, obviously, in his post that the sheriff, according to Lane, had also told him that the federal government will not be conducting raids. Okay, he doesn't believe that the federal government will be conducting raids. Lane clarified that they were not on the same or that he's not on the same page with everything that was laid out in the original post. Okay, so another key detail here, Lane said that the federal government, the law enforcement at the federal level, in the federal realm, they're very good at assessing risk and to everyone around them. And when they're doing something like this, like a mass deportation effort, and he says, I don't see this is a very good option, conducting sweeps, raids, things like that. And you heard them just now that that's not happening because they're very good at assessing risk. Okay, so Lane says, quote, it may be the only option in some cases for them to conduct school raids, but I seriously doubt that's going to happen where ICE agents have to go into the schools for any reason. Contradicting Lane's position, Beirne stated in this official news release, quote, federal agencies generally lack the manpower and the knowledge to conduct raids on their own, and they rely on local law enforcement. Lane told Cities 92.9 yesterday that, hey, I said that the sheriff's office won't be raiding the schools for immigrant children. That's what I told him. That's what he said. Now, anything else in the post, I can't verify. Anything else that Corey Beirne posted, I can't verify. He confirmed that just because the sheriff's office won't assist federal authorities in hypothetical school raids, that doesn't mean his office will not stop ICE agents from entering the schools if they need to for some reason, okay, if it's the only option in some weird case, okay? So Lane said right now, there's a little bit of a conflict between the federal law and the state law, which is true, the Trust Act, in what police can and can't do in cooperation with federal authorities, okay? Now, I've talked to a couple of state representatives, and they say that the Trust Act is pretty clear. It says, hey, anything to do with criminal behavior, so that includes entering illegally through an illegal port of entry. If you do that, you're considered a criminal, and the Trust Act is thrown out the window. Okay, so anything to do with criminality. Now, the Trust Act, from what I've been told by state lawmakers, they believe, Republican state lawmakers, not the Democrats, of course, they're going to say that they can't, federal authorities or local law enforcement can't work with federal authorities at all, even when it comes to deporting an illegal alien who commits heinous crimes like abusing children sexually. They'll say, oh, the Trust Act prohibits local law enforcement from assisting. That's not true. Local law enforcement can, because the Trust Act, like I said, there's this criminal element to it. Now, here's what Sheriff Matt Lane said. He says, if, in fact, the federal authorities are going after the people that commit crimes other than coming through the border and being unchecked, if they're going after criminal people that are in Chicago, then there might not be any kind of changes that we have to make according to the Trust Act, right? But if it's strictly deportation, right? If it's strictly, hey, you enter through an illegal port of entry and they're deporting those people, the feds, the ICE agents, I would like to see something come out of Chicago case law that would clarify for Illinois law enforcement as to what we can and cannot assist with. Okay. But yeah, the Trust Act, there's this criminal element to it, okay? There's this criminal element to it, and I think it extends, and a lot of lawmakers think it extends to the criminal element of entering the country through an illegal port. Okay, that alone is criminal, and therefore the Trust Act is thrown out the window. Now, let me try to give you a scenario where the Trust Act kind of applies, where local law enforcement cannot assist authorities. Here's what when it's been explained to me by several lawmakers, here's how they explain the Trust Act. Okay, so say Maria, she works at Rivian and she's here on a work visa. Okay, and there's a discrepancy in her application for her work visa. Like maybe she put the wrong residence down or something, and they're vetting her work visa. And then the federal authorities, ICE, they're like, wait a second. Maria, she's got the wrong address here. Let's go to the sheriff and have the sheriff call in Maria for an interview, and we're going to question her about it. Now, she's already here on a work visa. She's already here legally, temporary legal status on a work visa. And she's documented. There's just a discrepancy, and they want to ask Maria questions, and they're using their federal authority over. So the Trust Act isn't exactly awful when it's applied this way, where you've got, the federal authorities, which rarely happens, trying to utilize our local resources to do their job. Okay, that's where the Trust Act applies. It's if the federal authorities are using and abusing our local enforcement and our local authorities to do their job and to vet people, because they're not vetters. Okay, the local authority should not be doing that because that's a waste of our taxpayer dollars. We're paying them to police our streets. We're not paying them to vet criminals. That's what the federal authorities should be doing, correct? So that's the Trust Act. Okay, we're talking about documented legal citizens here, and we've got like a little civil dispute, okay, or like a little dispute about the paperwork. That's what the Trust Act really is how most people interpret the Trust Act. It would be interesting to see something come out of the Chicago, some sort of case law to clarify this, I guess, for Illinois law enforcement. But some people read this and it's very, very clear. Hey, enter through an illegal port of entry, that's illegal. That's criminal. Therefore, the Trust Act is thrown out the window. It's criminal for you to illegally enter the country, but it's also criminal for you to sexually abuse children. So therefore, the Trust Act is thrown out the window. We're going to assist federal authorities in detaining this person because there's a criminal element to it. Okay, so Beirne, in his official news release, tags several news outlets. Okay, I think it was like WEK. There was a few other ones. I can't remember them all, but he didn't tag Cities 92.9. So this was an official news release. His goal was to get the news to pick up on this headline and to mislead the public into believing that school raids were planned for the area. Okay, we did not do that. We did not run the headline. Beirne says sheriff will not assist in school raids. Why? Because we didn't want to mislead you into believing that school raids were planned for the area, because that is fear-mongering, and that's going to cause all kinds of panic amidst the parent community and amidst the teacher community and amidst the student population. Okay, we're not being irresponsible here, so we refer to it as deportation initiatives, so that way you weren't panicked thinking that school raids were going to be happening at District 87 Unit 5. Okay, here's what Lane said, because there were news outlets tagged in the post here, folks. Here's what he says. I encourage and expect news outlets or anyone seeking my position on this particular subject to go straight to the source and not draw their own conclusions. Go straight to the source. And look, folks, this was posted a few hours after Beirne's official release. All we did was post what Beirne had officially released to news outlets, okay? So Lane told Cities 92.9 he did give permission to Beirne to share details about their conversations, but he assumed that it's going to be constituents that he's going to be sharing this with, and he did not expect Beirne to issue an official press release. So Beirne did not immediately reply to my request for comment. So there you have it, folks. The discrepancy has been cleared up. I'm glad that we didn't have to retract any kind of reports, and I'm glad that we didn't mislead you, like some elected officials will do in this county, into believing that school raids were happening. Because you as a parent, you've got so much to deal with. I would be terrified if that was happening, where cops are coming in every single day, dropping in like ninjas from the ceiling and nabbing children in front of my child. Obviously, that would be terrifying as a parent, but that is not even close to happening. And here's the real problem with this. Lane told Corey Beirne, allegedly, according to Lane, right, that he told him that the federal government likely will not be conducting raids. He purposefully left that out of his press release to scare you and to scare the public and to get his cronies, other local media outlets to perpetuate this lie that local school raids were happening to get you to fear the federal government and to get you to fear the federal deportation operations. It's all political. All right, I got to shift gears. We'll be right back with more news next. Yeah, retracting, or they need to update their story here, folks, and include Tom Homan's several times, not even with just this. There were several times prior to this interview with Dr. Phil where he was asked blatantly by many individuals, hey, are you conducting school raids? The answer has always been the same, no. And what's more than that, federal authorities have never conducted school raids. There was fake news, obviously, about, I think it was the Chicago Tribune who originally posted. I want to say it was some Chicago news outlet. You guys can check it out. I think it was the Tribune, where they printed that there were ICE agents in the school. And that was blatantly false. You see where the media and the politicians are working together. He's tagging the media in this. He's trying to get his cronies. He's trying to get the members of the media to do his bidding and to stoke fear into the public as a politician. And they're working together on this. Okay. So the CPS, they had told, Chicago Tribune or whatever Chicago media outlets that, hey, there's ICE agents here. That wasn't true, obviously. And the Chicago Tribune ran with it and didn't do any fact checking or didn't take extra precautions as to not mislead the public like we did. We took precautions. We said, hey, we're not going to call it school raids because we know that that's not happening and that they're not planning for McLean County. We fact checked this with federal comments, with comments made from the federal border czar. Okay, this is not happening. They're not planned. And we haven't had a chance. We reported as breaking news. It was a report, not a news article. We reported what Corey Beirne had said. And we said, hey, we don't even really know what they've talked about, Sheriff Matt Lane. We're going to be vague about it, call it deportation initiatives, okay? So, the Chicago Tribune, they said it was ICE agents. It was Secret Service, not ICE. Without that information, it leads you to believe that ICE was going into these schools, and that's not true. ICE isn't going into the schools. It was Secret Service agents. They were actually responding to alleged assassination threats made by a student, and they sent a couple of Secret Service agents to check it out. It was Secret Service, yeah. Why not give all the rest of the facts? I was getting there, man. Relax. Why not give all of the facts? It was Secret Service. Yes, it was Secret Service. Somebody had made assassination threats. Allegedly, a student did, and they were against President Donald Trump and the Secret Service agents, rightly. I think that kind of warrants a little, it wasn't like a whole mob, okay, of Secret Service agents going in. They sent two, and they said, okay, let's send a couple of Secret Service agents out there to see what's going on and to see if these threats are, likely it's not anything to worry about, but let's go and send some Secret Service agents to talk to the students, see if these are credible threats. So that was the whole story. Secret Service agents were deployed. They weren't ICE agents. So there's the whole story. Dan, didn't think that was going to go your way, did you? Yeah, I was getting there. I was going to tell you that they weren't ICE agents, that it was actually Secret Service agents. And they knew that. I mean, come on. The Secret Service definitely was in conversations. They didn't just show up and walk in, okay? You can't even do that as a resident, as somebody in the community. You can't show up and walk into a school. There's definitely coordination and planning and cooperation going on with CPS to allow Secret Service agents to question this child who's making these alleged threats against the president. Okay, so there was obviously some of that going on. Clearly, you can't let people into the building just willy-nilly. And I'm actually not for ICE agents going and raiding schools, and forcing themselves in there. There's a lot of, hey, you got to make sure there's a judicial warrant. Yes, anybody can come in and say that they're ICE agents and dress up like ICE agents. And, they're not trained to know who's an ICE agent, who's not. Secret Service agents probably definitely identified themselves, but the CPS, they misled the public into believing those were ICE agents on purpose, and then they had their cronies, the media outlets, perpetuate that lie. Pritzker perpetuated the lie. Thanks for the text. You can text me 309-451-9299. That's our text line. You can also join me on the stream. Pritzker actually perpetuated the lie that, ICE agents were going into the school. It actually turns out they weren't ICE agents. They were Secret Service members who were going into the school to question a child or student about their alleged assassination threats made against the president. Okay, they were threatening to assassinate the president allegedly, and the Secret Service agents, of course, they cooperated with the school, coordinated. You as an individual cannot walk into a school just willy-nilly. You got to go through the office. You got to buzz in. I mean, the doors are locked. I mean, these schools are locked down pretty tight. There's no way that the Secret Service agents didn't identify themselves. They probably were in cooperation with administration at this Chicago public school. And they were in cooperation with the administration and said, hey, we have to question this child. They were making threats, assassination threats regarding or with the president. They were talking about assassinating the president. We have to interview him. We have to talk with him and make sure that these threats are credible. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here, okay? And Pritzker, I guess, he perpetuated that lie that ICE agents were at this school. And, I'm just sick and tired of politicians using the media. And they actually had to print retractions. Pretty much all the Chicago media outlets had to print retractions because they, led with the headline, ICE agents show up, and we weren't going to do that at Cities 92.9. We're not going to take a politician's words on its face and say, Sheriff Matt Lane talks with Corey Beirne about school raids and how he won't assist in them. We weren't going to do that because guess what? School raids weren't happening, so we didn't call them school raids as to protect the public from misinformation and to not mislead you into being thrown into this bout of fear. Okay, obviously parents would fear ICE agents coming down from the ceiling and grabbing kids and nabbing kids and officers seizing kids in front of other children. And I do think that there is definitely, I hope in phase 2 or 3 of this mass deportation effort, they announced that they will be conducting some sort of, not raid, but probably, hey, we're going to be deporting the children, the illegal immigrant children with their families. We don't want to separate the kids. We don't want to accidentally deport Maria and Juan, mom and dad, and little Jose gets left behind and winds up in DCFS and winds up here alone in the United States, okay? And he's at school one day. So I guarantee that there might be around phase 2 or 3 of this mass deportation operation an announcement that, hey, we're going to be collecting the children very, very relaxed manner, very controlled way. We're going to be collecting the children so that way they go home with their mom and dad, okay? But we're not there yet. And to stoke fear into people is just really an abuse of your political authority and your position as a county board member. And it's quite sad. It's really sad to see that. All right, I want to shift gears. Let's talk about it. This woman, she's a singer, and she is now claiming that Ozempic caused her to have some osteoporosis. Okay, now one thing I want to talk about is here in the state of Illinois, this is very recent news. I think it was like last legislative session where they agreed to spend your money, your taxpayer dollars. You have to pay taxes to the state of Illinois, income taxes, all of that. You have to pay taxes And your tax dollars are going towards Ozempic treatments for government employees. Okay, so government employees, they're getting fat and lazy and they're sitting on their butts all day. And then they want Ozempic and you have to pay for it. Okay, so the main problem with taking drugs that are not properly tested or have long-term studies is that they have unintended consequences that happen. Okay, clearly drugs that aren't tested. Now, you'll hear lefties, they'll say this about supplements. Now, the big difference between supplements and drugs is that they're supplements. Okay, so these are things that your body naturally produces, and you're just supplementing what your body already naturally produces. Okay, so for example, melatonin. Some people take melatonin. Your body naturally produces melatonin, and if you take a melatonin at night to help you to sleep, that's something your body naturally produces. Now, there are, I'm not going to lie, there are problems with supplements if you overuse them, right? Melatonin can get addictive, and your body might not make as much melatonin naturally if you keep supplementing with melatonin. I'm not saying that there's not problems with the supplement industry, but there's a big difference between drugs and supplements. Supplements are supporting what your body already makes. Ozempic is a foreign substance that you put into your body that has no long-term studies, and there are obviously going to be unintended consequences that happen. So this woman's name, this is really tragic. She's from Arizona. She's a singer. I guess she's very popular, and she has this emotional message for her followers, receiving news that Ozempic has left her with osteoporosis. Okay, so the reason why I bring this up and how this affects you, okay, now your tax dollars are paying for the fatties who don't do diet and exercise and rather, go and take Ozempic, and government, okay, the government employees, it's part of their premium healthcare plans now. They've got the best plans, Cadillac plans, the government employees, and you're paying all this tax money to it, and then the Ozempic is really costly, so you have to pay for that. And then they wind up getting osteoporosis, folks. So now you have to pay for their osteoporosis. You have to continue paying for this health care that they need because they've gotten osteoporosis from taking Ozempic. So they have now costed you thousands on thousands of dollars, okay, thousands upon thousands of dollars for medical care. That was totally preventable with just some diet and exercise. Cheap. It doesn't cost you anything, right? As a taxpayer, just take some accountability over your life and, I don't know, take a walk. Don't put the burger in your mouth, right? So take a listen to this.
I just left the doctor's office. I went to get a checkup because I've been off of Ozempic for 2 months now, and I just wanted to see if my body was in better condition, if there were any permanent damages. Kind of in shock right now because I wasn't expecting this, but I guess Ozempic can cause bone density loss, and I didn't think that that would happen to me because I was only on it for a year, but I have significant bone loss. I have osteoporosis and osteopenia, so that I don't know, there's like several of them that I have. I wasn't expecting that, but that's what happens if you use Ozempic for weight loss and you lose too much weight.
Okay, so there you have it, folks. I know that was pretty emotional. It is sad, and I'm not one to victim blame or anything, but really, she shouldn't have been prescribed this. It's really the doctor's fault here for prescribing this and allowing her to take Ozempic. But I'm going to get to the story here. This was an emotional Instagram video. Singer Avery tearfully revealed that she was diagnosed with this debilitating bone-thinning disease because she had taken Ozempic for a year. She's 30 years old, Arizona native, confessed that she turned to the weight loss drug after battling an eating disorder. The singer shared that she was dropped by her record label for being too fat and confessed that I thought I needed Ozempic to be beautiful and success. So, it shouldn't shock you that this record label, I mean, this is Hollywood. These are elitist jerks, right? And they call her probably too fat. She actually probably wasn't too fat, okay? And she goes, I thought I needed Ozempic to be beautiful and to be successful, okay? So she has an eating disorder and, that's really tragic. And there's never a reason to blame the victim, but it's unclear what extent the medication played in this, considering that she had an eating disorder already prior. I want to be clear about that. I don't know if Ozempic really caused it. I wouldn't be shocked because there's all kinds of issues that have come from Ozempic. I think there was I don't know who it was. It was some sort of comedian. She had come out and blasted Ozempic as well because she had crazy side effects. But she implies that her doctors have stated that it is a result of taking the medication. So her doctors are saying it's the result of the medication. Recent tests reveal that osteoporosis, the condition that increases life-threatening fractures. So your bones just become so brittle they just start to break. In her video, she urged 250,000 Instagram followers to not make the same mistake she did, and don't take Ozempic if you don't need it. Don't take the medication if you don't need it. So she didn't need this to begin with. She had an eating disorder prior as well. So there's a lot of things here moving, a lot of parts. But she said in a separate post, please be careful with Ozempic if you don't need it. It's meant for diabetes, obesity treatment. I've done a lot of damage to myself. I want to make it clear that I do have an eating disorder and did not get Ozempic from a doctor. So she wasn't prescribed this, okay? But there are people who are prescribed Ozempic, and the people who are prescribed Ozempic who don't need it by doctors, and this does happen, they will wind up with these consequences, with these life-ending, like in some cases, this is life-ending, the life-threatening disease, osteoporosis. So she goes, I made a mistake and I take responsibility for it. Please learn from mine. Please learn from my mistakes. For some, the benefits might outweigh the risks. Like I said, if you're extremely obese, like there comes a point if you're like, 400, 500 pounds, where you can't move, okay? And there might not be an out for you. Like you quite literally can't get at least exercise, okay? And you need a combination of both at that point if you're 500 pounds in order to lose that weight, right? But the fact that the doctors approved this for her when she was likely not even overweight is deeply concerning. And it's insane. There's a lot of these Ozempics, but there's also multiple other ones. Thyroid cancer. The FDA has put warnings on this. Ozempic, for instance, they have a warning label on it. The FDA, says, hey, put the warning label on there. You could get thyroid tumors, cancer, thyroid cancer. So while the bureaucracy would love it if the obese masses, jumped on this train of weight loss pills because it's good for big pharma, it's good for the weight loss pill industry, I guess. The risk is not fully understood. And many of these effects could be prevented if people would just fix their diet and exercise, even supplement, get enough sleep, right? And although this is painfully obvious, many people, unfortunately, will learn the hard way. They'll get on Ozempic and they're going to wind up with osteoporosis or something crazy like thyroid cancer. And that's the hard way. The easy way here is just fix diet and exercise. And not to mention, I've talked about this before, Illinois, we're paying for Ozempic. Illinoisans, taxpayers, we're paying for Ozempic for government employees. And they're going to wind up bleeding us dry because they're going to wind up with things like cancer. They're going to need chemo treatments. They're going to need all kinds of additional medical care because they skipped the diet and exercise and went and opted in for the Ozempic. So the fact that the scientists, quote, haven't figured out the precise mechanism as to how these medicines work, Ozempic and there's other ones as well, proves all you really need to know. Okay? It proves they only know what they know, which is that it helps you lose weight. And they don't really know much else about the medicines. They don't understand the precise mechanisms as to why it works. So, of course, there's going to be lifelong consequences like bone disease if you're taking something that you don't know anything about. Okay, so I'm going to be right back. Let's talk about Selena Gomez crying about illegal immigrants being deported in this mass deportation operation. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Tom defends school raids. You're gonna have to send me that, dude, because That's not part of his initiative. Like, how does he go from saying, no, we're not doing that, no, sir, no, sir, no, sir, we're not doing that at all, and then he says, okay, yeah, we're going to do that. He didn't say that they were going to do it. I bet, I don't know what you're referring to, but I bet he's talking about in specific instances where you might have a Venezuelan gang member who's 16 years old and attending school, and then you might have to go and obtain the child. Okay. I will go check this out. But you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Okay, so looked this up, and yes, it's the same thing that I said. So it's the same thing that Sheriff Matt Lane allegedly said to Corey Beirne, at least according to Matt Lane. He said, hey, school raids, I seriously doubt that they're going to happen. There are some instances, this is what Lane told me, he goes, that there might be some cases where a school raid is necessary, but I seriously doubt they're going to happen, specifically here in McLean County, maybe in Chicago. So here he is, Tom Homan, President Donald Trump's border czar, and I'm just using this article that you just shared with me, man. And I said this, I said, look, MS-13 gang members, some of them are 14 to 17. Okay, many gang members are 14 to 17, which we know is true. Venezuelan gang members, they could range 14 to 17, and they might be in school. I highly doubt that they're going to be in school, but President Tom Homan, President Donald Trump's border czar, likely said that, hey, we are going to be conducting deportations on MS-13 gang members, and if they happen to be going to schools, and if they're hiding in the schools, then we're going to go into those schools, okay? What criminals are hiding in schools? Middle schools, elementary schools, are you going into those? How many MS-13 gang members are ages 14 to 17? Many of them, Tom Homan replied. He said he'd enter schools to address potential threats to national security and public safety, but said it would be on a case-by-case basis. I mean, are you really going to argue with me here, Dan, on, whether or not MS-13 gang members should be deported? Oh, my audio is gone. Is it gone? Test, test. Can you guys hear me? 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Test, test. I don't know if my audio is gone. I hope not. Let me see here, folks. Let me know in the comment section if you guys can hear me or not. Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. I did a check, so. Okay. There won't be raids. I didn't say not to deport. Don't make shit up. Okay. So you're still trying to say that there won't be raids. There's not going to be raids in McLean County. I doubt that we have any. Well, and Sheriff Matt Lane, the point here, come on, Dan. Corey Beirne should have included in his press release that Sheriff Matt Lane shared with him that he seriously doubts school raids are going to be happening. Can you agree that it's misleading to not inform that fact? I mean, clearly Tom Homan here, he says it's a case-by-case basis. So even he is saying that this isn't going to be happening unless it's on a very case-by-case basis where you have a 14 to 17-year-old gang member Venezuelan gang member, okay, then we are going to go in there if they're a threat to national security and public safety. I mean, what's so wrong about that? I mean, we're talking these people who are gang members who kill people, okay, and hurt people. If they're hiding in the schools, then yes, he is going to go in and school raids. It's not like he's going up and like collecting a bunch of, they're going in targeted on a case-by-case basis, and they know who the Venezuelan gang member is. And they're going in and they're collecting that individual. I mean, what the hell are you talking about? Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Leftists, they'll say that Tom Homan is defending school raids, which is not at all what he is doing. So a leftist here in the comment section, they, cited this international business article, and, I'm reading through it, and they're like, oh, Tom Homan actually justified and supported and defended school raids. No, that's not what he did. Okay, so here is the direct quote. He says, here's what Tom Homan says. How many MS-13 members are there, ages 14 through 17? Many of them. Tom Homan replied to this woman. Her name is Martha Radatz. She's some sort of reporter, I'm sure, with ABC News, it looks like. Yeah. So she asked him, how many? And he goes, many of them. He goes, he'd enter schools to address potential threats to national security and public safety. Okay, so those aren't school raids. It's called entering school, very targeted. And then he goes on further. He goes, it'd be on a case-by-case basis. So that is still reflective of what Sheriff Matt Lane had also said about school raids to me yesterday. He just says, hey, now there might be a situation or a scenario where they have to go into the schools. I seriously doubt it. Specifically, I mean, come on, we're in McLean County in Chicago. There is this problem with 14 to 17-year-old gang members, Venezuelan MS-13 gang members. And if they're deemed a national security risk or a public safety risk, they're going to go in very targeted, and they're going to collect the individual who is the gang member. Okay, they're not doing these sweeps. They're not rounding up children, looking at their skin tone, and then deporting the ones that have a bit of a tan. Okay, that's not what is going on here. Okay, ICE agents know that they have to assess risk. They are going to have to assess these sensitive locations carefully, and they're going to go in and they're going to be very targeted with their operation. Okay, so to mislead the public into believing that these huge school raids where they're going to go in with a fishing net and just collect a bunch of kids and deport the ones that have a tan is absolutely ridiculous. They're going to go in there. They're going to be coordinating with the school. They're going to say, look, this is a Venezuelan 14-year-old. We need him because he's a threat to public safety and he's a threat to national security. Okay, we need him and we've got to collect him. Let's arrange something so that way we can collect him. Okay, that's what should be happening. I guarantee the schools won't do that. But come on, folks, can we all agree that Venezuelan gang members should not be in our schools? Like, that is such a threat to the law-abiding students, to the parents who send their kids to public school. If that's going on, yes, let the ICE agents in. And that's what Sheriff Matt Lane said. He goes, the ICE agents are capable. In the federal realm, the law enforcement in the federal realm, they are capable of assessing risk. I'm not going to go in there. They're going to go in there if they need to. Okay. And he says, but I seriously doubt that's going to happen. And it was totally misleading for Corey Beirne to get out there and say that school raids are happening. It was misleading the public. We didn't do that. Thank God, because we would have had to print a retraction, much like Chicago Tribune and other Chicago media outlets that lied and said that ICE agents were in schools. ICE agents weren't in schools. They were Secret Service agents, and they actually went in because somebody had made alleged assassination threats towards President Donald Trump. So that's what happened. All right, I want to shift gears. Let's talk a little bit about Selena Gomez, because she was bawling her eyes out. And I think that this is hilarious because, one, she took it down. Two, America made her. Okay, America made her. She is She started out in this tiny little house in Texas and has multi-million-dollar mansions now. Someone should really inform Selena Gomez that illegal immigration is not about race or nationality. Okay, they're deporting Venezuelans, they're deporting Mexican, Hispanic people, they're deporting white people, Romanians, German people. Okay, anybody who came through the southern border through an illegal port of entry, they're deporting those folks. Well, not even those folks yet. They're deporting just the people who did that on top of criminal activity. Okay. So those aren't even the ones that they've been targeting. They're targeting the criminal squared illegal immigrants. So somebody really needs to tell her that illegal immigration enforcement is not based on race or nationality. It's based on did you enter through the illegal through an illegal port of entry, and if you did so, then you are subject to deportation. Okay. But she says that Donald Trump and Tom Homan, they're attacking her people, and that she's sorry. She's sorry for the children, and she's sorry. And she just starts bawling here. And I'm just like, oh man, this is just clearly for attention. No wonder Justin Bieber chose Haley over Selena. Take a listen to this.
Just want to say that I'm so sorry. All my people are getting attacked. The children.
Mm.
I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise.
What? It's so weird. It's just so strange. It's very strange. She's deleted the video since, likely because she had no idea what she was talking about. Additionally, it probably does not, do her makeup brand any favors to be up there, no makeup, bawling. And, the makeup brand that she is endorsing, right? Now that she's declared herself a mindless leftist buffoon, most likely the makeup brand, go woke, go broke. Okay, that's what's going to wind up happening. So it doesn't do any favors for her makeup brand. Most likely, they contacted her and said, "Hey, take that down. You look ridiculous. We're not going to sell anything now." The fact that these people flat out believe that Trump is targeting people of a specific race is just naive, and it's wrong. He's targeting people who did illegal things. Okay, the president of the United States does not have the authority and never will have the authority to deport people based on a nationality or race. Okay, we're talking about people who went through an illegal port of entry. Additionally, it's deeply offensive to her people, to Mexican people who worked hard and got into this country the legal way. And like I said, we're very good to our illegal immigrants in that we have so many different options for illegal immigrants to obtain at least a temporary status. Okay, so there's so much naturalization, asylum seeker, all of this. So yeah, I mean, additionally, it's deeply offensive to her people to suggest that, hey, or who worked hard, got through the legal way, and then she's implying all Mexicans are illegal here. Obviously, with this video, she's implying that most of her people are illegal, which is not true. Donald Trump did very well with the Hispanic community this last election because they're peeved off that people are entering the country through an illegal port of entry when they had to work through the naturalization process to obtain citizenship. So couldn't be further from the truth that all Mexicans are illegal. That's not true. And I don't think she really believes her claims here that she's making. I don't think she actually believes it. I mean, she is an actor, folks. We have to understand that she could probably cry on demand if she wanted to. She really cared about the children. She'd be thanking the Trump administration for finding over 70,000 missing children that the Biden regime had actually lost. Okay, so your crocodile tears are you are crying over some of the worst members of society. We're talking Venezuelan MS-13 gang members. We're talking Thailand child rapists. Okay, that's what somebody was deported, and Dr. Phil actually was in the tape. He was deported from Chicago. He was in Chicago walking the streets, and he was convicted child abuser, molester, sexually abusing kids. That's who she's crying over. So the lies that she's crying over, the people, good people, is just ridiculous. She's not crying over good people. She's crying over the people who are the worst of the worst in society. And this is exactly why the left lost the election. Okay, the American people are smarter And that being said, like I said, Justin Bieber chose Haley probably because crying over things that don't exist is not exactly what you would call a green flag in the relationship. So you guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. I love you. That's actually going to do it for us here on Cities 92.9. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.